You may wish to skip this video. I've just recorded it. I've just watched a little bit of it back, and I've realised that I've spent the first 6 minutes talking about mattresses, and they're mattresses to do with West Ham, to be fair. But I go off on a bit of a tangent. Just to pre-warn you, I do end up talking about the PAI Capital takeover and whatnot, and it all gets very serious after the 6 minute mark. So if you want to skip forward to that, please feel free to do so. That being said, having spoken about the takeover, I think possibly the mattress part's the best bit. The PAI Capital statement regarding the potential takeover of West Ham United. I say PAI, it's PAI Capital. They call themselves PAI Capital. That's not how you spell pie. How cockney can they be? They can't even spell pie. Anyway, they released a statement when myself and Gio did the video earlier on. I hadn't read all 5 pages of it, I must be completely honest. Joe mentioned skimming it, I've done so myself. So I've gone and read every single word of it now, and I bring some of that information to you. Some of it is serious, and some of it I've got to take it with a pinch of salt and have a bit of a laugh about it. So please excuse me on that, but I think I've got really the relevant points, or the points which really stood out for me. And it was never my intention to make a circus or a joke of this, but I mean it has sort of become a little bit of that anyway. Last night on Twitter, my phone started going mad. I wasn't on the social media, and I was actually watching a film, terrible film actually. Anyway, so I was watching telly last night, and my phone started pinging, and I was, PAI are releasing a statement tomorrow. So I went on and sort of I went and had a look, and Twitter was in meltdown because PAI had said they were going to release a statement. They wanted it to go to all West Ham fans, and people were going mad because it was going on the West Ham Ways Patreon, and only if you paid for the Patreon you'd get to see it first, basically. Someone's going mad about that. Didn't care so much ourselves because we're never the first to the news, and we're quite happy to discuss news not only a day later, but we'll discuss it for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Anyway, I was reading it, and people were getting really, really feisty. And this one message, this one tweet popped up, and it was. It doesn't matter who it's from. I'm not here to particularly embarrass anyone, but it made me laugh. And he said, I'm just listening to Tom Skinner on the Bowling Boys podcast. Now, for those of you that don't know, Tom Skinner, he's a proper West Ham fan. He was on The Apprentice, and I think it seemed that PAI Capital's first line of communication with the fans was to do it via Tom, and I felt very sorry for him because I get the impression now he's probably thinking, oh, just leave me alone, I wish I hadn't have bothered with any of this, right? Because he's had abuse on social media, and it is horrible getting abuse on social media. I've had it before. There's no 2 ways about it. It's not nice. So I do this, very much tongue in cheek. But anyway, Tom had said that he knows them personally, and this, that, and the other. So this tweet basically says, just listen to Tom Skinner podcast on Bowling Boys. Listen to Tom Skinner on Bowling Boys podcast, talking about how he knows how he met PAI Capital. He said he sold them a load of mattresses, and they're a really nice group of lads. I thought this was fantastic, because this is how we're obviously going to validate their potential ownership of West Ham. They've sold a load of mattresses, and they bought a load of mattresses. Sorry, I think Tom sold them the mattresses, and they bought a load of mattresses. How many mattresses do you need is the first question that sprung to my mind. How many do you need? I would need, myself and the kids. How many mattresses did they buy off Tom? This is what I'm wondering. And during the transaction, obviously showed that really nice bunch of lads, and they clearly said that we're West Ham fans. Really brilliant. Maybe you should take over the club. I don't know how it went down. But then I thought more about it, and I thought, is this this is the international currency for buying a football club, is in mattresses. If you remember, all know what the valuation of Hugo at its height on the index, in the Dow Jones index, of course, and on all the stock markets and all the currency markets. The price of a Hugo was £9.5 million sterling at one point. The price of a Hugo is diminished considerably, it has to be said. So what currency? It's sort of like Bitcoin, I think, a mattress. How much currency? What worth a mattress, if we were to ask in Zoomer talk, and how many have they got? I'm just wondering, because they've announced, PAI, that they're going to move the configuration of the stadium, and they're going to bring the seats closer to the pitch or something. They didn't actually specify. I've got my suspicion. I think what they've done is they've bought a load of mattresses from Tom, and those gaps between the front edge of the seats and the pitch, I think they're going to put mattresses around it. We don't need a carpet. Have you seen the mattress? Have you seen the London Stadium mattress? it's quite a sight to behold. It certainly make for jumping up and down very good when we score a goal. But it's going to be what row, what seat, what block are you in the stadium? Oh, I'm in mattress 3A. You just get to lie down by the pitch side and watch the play in front of you. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and I did love the whole mattress thing because this is brand new. I don't know why this wasn't done before. I don't know why Roman Abramovich didn't do this concept when he was looking to buy Chelsea. I can imagine Ken Bates sat in his office and he's introduced to Roman Abramovich, who of course wants to buy Chelsea. And of course, Ken Bates' first question would have been, "So Roman, I understand you're a wealthy man, a man of means, a man of wealth. How many mattresses have you got?" And imagine Roman Abramovich saying, I have 4 mattresses. That's my Russian. I have 4 mattresses. I think, is that Russian? I don't know. It's a sort of generic, whatever it is. I'd imagine Ken Bates saying, well, sorry, Roman, that's not going to quite do it. So Roman comes back with a bigger bid, which is obviously 25 mattresses, 40 million for the club, and a couple of pillowcases, which is obviously the currency we're dealing in. I mock, but it's been so preposterous, okay? And I just got to get that out there. This whole mattress thing is ridiculous. I'm going to go to their statement now, as I said I would. And now it gets a little bit serious. Now I've been silly for a moment. In the statement, it goes on about public and private funding. The funding basically, it says here, and these are the words of the statement, it says, collectively as PAI Capital, we select and invest in new ventures to raise capital from the markets, both public markets and also a select circle of private investments. Ultra high net worth individuals form part of a close network of friends and peers. We have clients, investors from China and the Far East, from the Middle East, from Eastern Europe, and obviously most of them trust us with confidence not to seek publicity. That's excellent. That is excellent. I love that bit. Anyway, we prefer to announce projects only when they are complete and successfully delivered. Whilst any leakage to the public domain of a project is making it risky. Look, I'll let you do your own jokes on that, and it's not for me to particularly mock that. What I wanted to point out was that clearly, in terms of this capital investment, what they do is they seek investment from elsewhere, from wealthy individuals, as they said themselves. And then what they would do is they would then purchase and make an investment. And then the idea obviously is to get a return on that investment to provide the people that have invested with a profit. I think as in layman's terms, I think that's basically how it works. So this does actually answer one of the questions that I wanted to know, which is the money borrowed? Well, it's the money's invested from investment. They want a return on their investment. So I think, this is not vastly different from Gold and Sullivan in that sense, who, of course, were charging initially 7% on their loans and 4% or something like that. All the money is not just going into West Ham. They want a return on this, and this clearly is what it is. What I want to know is, and I asked this question earlier, and a couple of people, it's a pertinent question, a couple of people have asked it in the chat, which is, if it all goes to the wall and it all goes belly up, who foots the cost? Basically, are West Ham saddled with debt, or is PAI Capital saddled with the debt? Basically, is any debt leveraged against the club? I think this is really, really important, and a question I would have liked answered there. But anyway, that's that. The next part of it is really interesting. It goes on. It talks about non-disclosure agreements and whatnot, but it also suggests that maybe they have spent 12 months looking at the books. It says, He's asked his own questions. Okay, so here we go. It says, are you referring to David Sullivan's recent comments about rumours of your takeover bid? So I think this is in reference to why it got into the public domain anyway. But I certainly feel that since David Sullivan leaked the news and said we've had a takeover bid, that they've used that as an avenue. Okay, it's out in the open now. We're going to start contacting everyone and we're going to start leaking our own stuff. That's what I feel has happened. So the answer says, yes, we are very surprised to see him commenting on some unofficial information and rumours. I am sure the club owners receive many offers. Why take it into the public domain before anything is agreed? So PAI Capital having a dig at David Sullivan there for saying you shouldn't have made this public. So Mr. Sullivan does not agree with our price offer. He has the right to do so because the shares are his own private property. Or I do believe any owner of Premier League club and as brand of West Ham's calibre, brand not great, must also feel a duty to the community and fans. What we cannot do is simply say that we're not serious. That is false information. We're not going to fall for this move. We do not want to escalate any conflict. So with all respect to Mr. Sullivan, we will continue pursuing an opportunity and make our best efforts to get him to agree our offer and sell his controlling stake of the club. I think the conflict is gone. I think that's bolted. I think you have a conflict now. I think you have a conflict of interest, and I think that there's now been, well, it's not really a war of words. Sullivan said his piece, and then there's been 4 or 5 others. Gio said earlier, you know, Sullivan's done the wise thing, just shut up now, and which he's done. So all the noise is coming from one side, and I think it's going to be really, really hard. If what you want to do is now persuade Sullivan to come to the negotiating table, you're going to find it really hard because I think you just, it's insulted him there, basically. I think that's going to be really, really difficult. Something else says, they claim you did not provide proof of funds, did you? He said, of course we did, otherwise why would the club officially provide us access to their data for a whole 2 months? Sorry, 2 months, not 12 months. Access to their data room. I didn't think we had a data room. I thought we scribbled everything on a crayon, to be perfectly honest with you. They said, our team went for every small detail and analysed every aspect of the club's operations, from top salary earners down to smallest cost items. Based on this data, they basically made a plan for the club. They said there really is no point in us making an announcement until we know we have agreed the terms of purchase. As I say, this sort of goes back to what I was saying, which was it's really hard for them now to negotiate with Sullivan. Like, maybe this is one of the reasons that things are done through solicitors and things are normally kept quiet in takeover. If this goes through, there'll never been a takeover like it. You have no precedence for this. This is not how football clubs are bought. So this is a very, very strange way of going about it. They need Sullivan to sell, and I would imagine they need Sullivan to sell at a price that's accommodated to them, because I do believe all of this is about angering the fans, so as the fans do drive the price down. And we've thought that, I've said this, said it 3 weeks ago in a video when it first came out. So I don't know what Sullivan's price is, but clearly they can't afford it. Otherwise, there wouldn't be this this media campaign, which I do think is being. I think they're using people for it. I think they used poor old Tom Skinner for it. I think they used Dave and X yesterday, and I think they'll use anyone that they can to get their message across. I think they're using the Ferdinand brothers to do it. Why would the Ferdinand brothers do it? Well, I'll let you. Look, you make your own conclusions on that. Maybe they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart. Maybe they're not. I don't know. But it's the whole thing is not great. But it's what it's not going to do, and this is really weird. I think a lot of this is strange. It's not going to bring Sullivan to the negotiating table. It just won't. You're going to alienate him further. You're pushing him further away to the point where he just won't return your calls. I think anyway. I think if you dig someone out publicly, you make them less likely to do so. Anyway, it says. It's about a disclosure of a business plan. This is really interesting. It says, from a longer perspective, our business model changes the way the club operates at the moment. It will become part of a larger setup, which guarantees much more viable and sustainable development. So we can compete at the Premier League's top 6 level every season. A club of West Ham's importance cannot be run as a private toy or some vanity project. Bang! There it goes again. Now, it may well be, let's say it may well be that Sullivan does run the club as a vanity project and a private toy. However, if you want to then go into a negotiation with somebody and you've said that about them, you're going to find it really, really hard. So the club of West Ham's importance cannot, so I've done that. It must be a proper institutionalised structure that guarantees stability. Being part of a larger development project offers the club the opportunity. Big key there, development project. And this is when I get my answer to one of my questions. Which was, do you remember I asked one of the questions was why if you were planning to take over a club would you use Philip Beard, for instance? Why would you do that, bearing in mind his one track record of running a football club was Crystal Palace, and it was Queen's Park Rangers, and it was unsuccessful. Why would you choose him? Why would you not choose someone who has a track record of success in this? And I got my answer here inadvertently. Here's where the devil's always in the detail, and I didn't think there was a lot of it, but it's in here. It says, we've got an extraordinarily talented team at PAI Capital, people like Philip Beard, who led the transformation of the O2 Arena. There it is. There it is. Philip Beard is not part of this consortium because he's good at the transition of a football club, at taking over at QPR and making them a successful football club. No, 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 no. This, I don't know why it didn't come to me sooner. If you don't know, the O2 Arena is the Millennium Dome, right? Have I got that right? It's the Millennium Dome. The Millennium Dome was built as a party venue for the new millennium, for the year 2000. It became a massive white elephant. I mean, it really did. They didn't know what to do with it. It was a public building. In the end, went out to tender. And to be fair, O2 Marina made a massive success of it. It's been massively successful. But that's why he's been brought on board. Surely, this is to actually, not for West Ham expertise in West Ham, it's actually to make, it's for the stadium. Which makes you realise, hold on, this is about property. And then you go on, because so he answered the question. He said, but is this deal for you still more about park property developments? And he says, as a West Ham fan, like I say, the project is about taking the club to the next stage, and one they truly deserve to be in. As a businessman, I must add that there's a unique opportunity about developing united operations of the park, stadium and club. These three assets have to be worked on as a whole and multiply each other's value. It's assets, you know, listen, it's brand, listen to the language, brand, assets. This is not what I want to hear. If we're gonna move away from Golden Sullivan, who I firmly believe, you know this, moved us to the Olympic Stadium, so as we would become a bigger brand, so as we would become an asset, so as we would be a viable option, so we would be a saleable asset to them. All the things about the seats, all the things about not taking the vendors with us, the changing of the badge, all of that stuff I felt was a cynical move, was all about marketing, was all about that. The last thing I want to do is actually move and get into bed with a group who seem to share the same observation, outlook of a club as a brand, as a commodity, as an asset. Their words. He said there's a natural synergy between the three assets going to be maximised when there's a common interest between the three. A combined vision, a combined operations team. Listen, I would agree with that. I think running the stadium as a separate entity, and I think that's wrong. But they can't buy the stadium. This is something that is on here. It says a club cannot rely on its traditional fan base. We discussed this earlier. He said we could barely fill Upton Park and so on and so forth. We've dealt with that, and I discussed that earlier. So the club and the stadium need to, under our proposal, will become the beating heart of the park, drawing on big crowds, welcoming sport to a cultural hub. Fans will feel proud of the stadium and the surrounding park. It's keen to provide quality food and beverages, entertainment, to capitalise on consistently high football. And look, I've got to be honest with you, we don't want quality food. I'm sorry. Look, this is not about the Ritz, all right? This is really not. I don't mean we want crap food. You know what I'm saying. Actually, we want the guy with a burger van and stuff like that. We want pie and mash. We want. This is the stuff that we want. We want the cultural identity of it. In the same way, I don't even know different. I would anticipate, I don't know, I've never been to a game in Scotland, but I would expect them to have a Scottish cuisine. I would expect them, I've been down to Brighton, they've done it so well. They've got the local beer, they've got the local pies, they've got all that stuff, to do it so well. This is not about that anyway. But so much of it, they keep mentioning park, experience and legacy. These are all terms that Karen Brady used. Let's be perfectly honest. As he goes on and said, I'll read this. He said, in turn, financially said, West Ham FC, will be financially healthy and able to invest proper funds in the transfer and development. And this is not some dream sold to the fans. These are very realistic and achievable steps for us. I really don't know what to say about all that. Look, what I'm saying is, as West Ham fans, and I think I speak for the majority here, and I'm a fan of the Olympics. I went to the Olympics. I enjoyed it. I'm a fan of athletics as well. I thought that, what a magnificent athletic stadium it was. What a magnificent Olympics it was. But as West Ham fans, this is what I don't think they appreciate. A lot of us don't give a damn about the Olympic legacy. I've got to say, we want our club to do well. A lot of our fans don't care about some vibrant development of the park. Don't get me wrong, I don't want the park to be run down. The park could be lovely, but I think even calling it a park's a bit of a stretch. It's mostly concrete. They planted some trees there, and that's all lovely, and the canals there, and they're great, but it's not a park. It's a property development, the whole area, and I'll tell you, of the likes I've probably not seen before. The place I first visited, I don't mean as a kid, but the place I first visited when they started building the Olympic Stadium, well, I went there, to now, so 2012, you're looking at almost 10 years, is in many respects unrecognisable. They've put up so many buildings, so many apartments, so many shops, so many businesses. This is not a park. It's not the Cotswolds, right? It's not National Trust area or anything like that. It's really not. And I just find there's so much focus in this about the park, about development, about the stadium, about all of this stuff. The way they speak about West Ham, the way they get the name wrong, the way they talk about attracting new fans and all of this other stuff, and that I do, and the whole premise of it. Sorry, I'm stalling a little bit here, but what I'm trying to say is the whole premise of getting people to invest in West Ham so as those people can then get a return. It's not what I want. I understand we're not necessarily going to get a Roman Abramovich, and that's absolutely fine. I'd settle for that. I'd settle for Leicester's owners or Aston Villa's owners or somebody like that. But if this is all about assets, which is what it seems to be, what they're saying is it would be advantageous for us to make West Ham great again because then we can make a return on the investment. That's great, but I see nothing, and I mean this, I see nothing in the statement, I see nothing in the team that they've put together that shows me a group of people that know how to run a football club anyway. I really don't. And it leads me back, actually, funny enough, to almost Sullivan's first statement, where he turned around and he said, this is more of a property deal. You listen to them, and if you read through those 5 pages yourself and listen to what they've said, you think, oh, actually, I think it is. It's packed full of people who would deal in that field, in investments and in property. You can't just sort of shoehorn the Ferdinand brothers in and say, oh, there you go, there's our football expert. You can't call Philip Beard a football expert. He's won dalliance with it. Look, it appears to have been a failure. Massively successful with that that transition from the Millennium Dome to the O2 Arena, if that was what he's saying and was involved in that. But realistically, I think if that happens and they get their hands on that property, we sort of become a little bit of a side issue, really. And it's a long-term project, and I just think, well, we've just had a load of promises and a long-term project. I'm not sure we want to particularly buy in to another one, particularly when the success of that project is going to be predetermined by the success of everything else around it in terms of the property development and whatnot. And what was really interesting, I think this is really the key here, because he answers this, it's in the 5 pages, I have read it today, which he addresses on one of the occasions, the fact that how much they spend on West Ham determines how much transfer budget we'll have. So basically, I've said this before, I don't know the figures, I'm making these figures up. If West Ham cost 400 million, we'll have 100 million to spend. If West Ham cost 450 million to buy, we'll have 50 million to spend, and so on and so forth. I've made those numbers up, but I'm just using it as an example. That ain't great either. That does not suggest an infinite transfer budget. It suggests a finite transfer budget. And it also suggests that they don't have enough money to buy the club. I think when West Ham was valued at 800 million, I thought you were having a laugh. You know, you got absolutely no chance. That is not happening at all. It's a ridiculous valuation. That being said, I do think we're probably worth more than 300 million, 350 million. I don't know what they've bid. I think we are worth more than that. But if what we're saying is there's a finite amount of money to spend on West Ham, then it's not bottomless cash. We're in exactly the situation that we're in now. which is why it sort of it looks like it to me as if there's this intention to drive the price down by making the fans outraged. I don't like it. I don't appreciate being used in that way. I don't like the way they're communicating with the fans. I don't like that none of these have been a question and answer. I'm not looking for it. I don't honestly. If they offered us at Hammers Chat now, obviously they've gone through Tom, they've gone through West Ham way. If they offer, I'd speak for myself, not for Gio here. If they offer us at West Ham now, I'd say if they offered it at Hammers Chat now, I'd say that honestly, don't worry about it. Forget it, you know what I mean? Made such a hash, and quite frankly, I'd actually love Gio to interview him actually, because I think it'd be an easy interview for him, quite frankly. And I've still questions that I would like to have answered. The main question though, I would like answered above and beyond everything else is, how many mattresses did you buy?